This is the story of how the most iconic visual symbol of British royal supremacy was transformed into a devastating glass cage of isolation in front of a global audience in less than 24 hours. The deafening roar of the Royal Air Force fly past over Buckingham Palace was entirely eclipsed by the staggering, undeniable reality of Queen Camilla's physical containment. What transpired on the famous stone balcony during the 2026 trooping? The colour was not a scheduling error or a minor logistical shift. It was a cold forensic execution of military and ceremonial governance. What Camilla just realized, standing entirely alone as she watched the heavy glass doors of the center room firmly seal shut behind her, is that the crown on her head cannot dictate the geography of the monarchy. When a queen consort's private family is physically barred from the sovereign's carriages and systematically erased from the global broadcast, it is never an accident. It is a calculated message, and the message delivered to her by Prince William was chillingly absolute. You do not control the state footprint, you cannot manufacture a royal bloodline, and against the unyielding military architecture of the crown, you actually own absolutely nothing. In this video, we are going to unpack the secret ceremonial power grab that triggered one of the most ruthless internal containment strategies the modern monarchy has ever witnessed. We will examine the hidden logistical paper trail Camilla created when she attempted to weaponize the sovereign's birthday parade. A desperate maneuver to rewrite the strict military protocols and place her, non-royal children, squarely at the center of the Buckingham Palace balcony. We will look at exactly how Prince William and Princess Anne, operating with terrifying precision within the household division, uncovered her staggering institutional trespassing. Finally, we will break down the silent, bureaucratic guillotine that severed her visual influence the moment she attempted to overwrite the rightful heirs. This is a masterclass in high-stakes institutional warfare, where the most devastating retaliations are delivered not through the press but through a strict military directive, exposing a woman who just discovered that the illusion of supreme authority is no match for the cold reality of a locked balcony door. To truly understand the sheer magnitude of this structural collapse, we must first look at the towering illusion of supremacy Camilla had spent 3 decades meticulously constructing. For 30 years, she operated with a singular, unyielding focus, navigating her way from the deep shadows of the monarchy's greatest public scandal to the glittering apex of the British social hierarchy. But behind the custom-tailored military-style coats and the heavily curated public relations campaigns, her psychological objective was never merely about gaining public acceptance or standing beside the king. It was about achieving absolute visual institutional permanence for her entire bloodline. Over the decades, we witnessed what appeared to be the systematic, quiet erasure of Princess Diana's legacy. Camilla oversaw the gradual replacement of traditional courtiers with her own loyalists, and she consistently pushed to weave her non-royal children Tom and Laura into the peripheral fabric of state events, granting them access that traditionally belonged only to working royals. She operated under the profound, unwavering belief that because she held total control over the heart and decisions of King Charles, she inherently wielded the executive authority to reshape the visual narrative of the crown itself. She mistook the king's personal devotion for unyielding ceremonial power. Throughout the transition of the reign, she navigated her elevated position with a staggering level of confidence, building an empire of influence surrounded by an expensive public relations apparatus. This echo chamber convinced her that the public had forgotten the past, and that the institution was finally hers to reshape. She felt completely secure in her position, completely failing to notice that the true architectural guardianship of the monarchy's public image had already shifted away from her husband. She assumed that the balcony of Buckingham Palace, the ultimate global stage of royal authority, was simply another room in a house she now controlled. The trigger for this unprecedented internal war occurred during the highly classified palace-wide logistical planning for the 2026 Trooping the Colour, the official celebration of the sovereign's birthday. Recognizing the inherent fragility of her position as a consort and facing the stark reality of the king's ongoing health vulnerabilities, Camilla was gripped by a sophisticated form of commercial and historical desperation. She knew that her family's access to the world stage and the immense social and financial currency that comes with being photographed alongside the working royals was tied entirely to the lifetime of King Charles. Driven by this panic, Camilla attempted a breathtaking secret administrative maneuver designed to secure a permanent visual fortress for her bloodline before the window of opportunity slammed shut. Behind closed doors, she quietly directed her private office to submit a revised, highly confidential memorandum to the Master of the Horse and the overarching commanders of the Household Division. The paperwork contained an extraordinary set of demands. Camilla was attempting to formally requisition AE, prime state carriage for her son and his family to ride in the official military procession down the mall. Furthermore, the documents revealed a meticulously redesigned standing order for the Buckingham Palace balcony. Camilla attempted to physically push senior bloodline royals, including Princess Anne, to the extreme edges of the balcony, replacing them with her own private network of aristocratic allies and her non-royal children. She wanted her family flanking the king. It was a calculated hostile takeover of the crown's visual integrity. She was attempting to use the sovereign's military parade to create a manufactured state-funded shadow court, ensuring her family would be permanently immortalized in the global press as untouchable figures of state. What Camilla did not anticipate was that the administrative machinery she was attempting to manipulate was fiercely protected by the ultimate gatekeepers of the crown. While she was busy executing her strategy through the ceremonial offices, Prince William and Princess Anne were quietly protecting the perimeter. As the colonel of the Welsh Guards and the gold stick in waiting William and Anne possess overarching, supreme authority over the sovereign's military footprint and the strict governance of state parades. William is a man who carries the silent, enduring grief of his mother's public humiliation, coupled with a fierce, unwavering instinct to protect the future of the crown for his wife, Catherine. He has watched Catherine offer nothing but uncomplaining sacrifice to the institution, maintaining her grace under immense pressure and never once demanding unauthorized balcony space for her own parents or siblings. When Camilla's unauthorized parade manifest bypassed standard military consultation and were routed for final logistical dispatch, they triggered an immediate highly classified alert that landed directly on William's desk. Together with Princess Anne, he conducted a silent forensic audit of the ceremonial logs. They uncovered the extensive metadata trail of Camilla's private office, attempting to bypass standard independent protocols and pressure the military commanders under the guise of the king's direct wishes. They saw the staggering exploitation hidden within the seating charts, the precise calculated attempt to permanently overwrite the rightful bloodline, and the aggressive strategy to elevate the Parker Bowles narrative using the military honours of the state. The moral outrage was absolute, but in the upper echelons of the British Monarchy, you do not retaliate with emotional screaming matches or leaked tabloid stories. You retaliate with weaponized restraint. The execution of their revenge was completely silent, turning the very rules of military protocol into a clinical guillotine. William did not confront his stepmother in the drawing rooms of the palace. He simply utilized his absolute authority over the royal estate's operational frameworks. He enacted what military insiders quietly refer to as the Bloodline-Only protocol. A new internal mandate was immediately circulated to the Household Division, the estate security details, and the global broadcasting coordinators. William ordered the permanent revocation of Camilla's ceremonial overrides. He instructed that strictly direct descendants of the sovereign and formally commissioned working royals were permitted on the state footprint. Every single unauthorized carriage request and balcony placement her team had attempted was instantly voided. The trap snapped shut on the morning of the parade. Camilla's son and his extended family arrived at the heavily guarded perimeter of the Royal Mews, fully dressed in morning suits, expecting to be ushered into a waiting state landau. Instead, they were met by a specialized division of military police, acting under the direct orders of the Prince of Wales. The security teams politely but firmly informed the Parker Bowles family that their names were not on the official state manifest. Their temporary royal insignias were useless. They were entirely unauthorized to participate in the procession and were swiftly redirected to the standard civilian grandstands, physically quarantined from the sovereign's airspace. Simultaneously, the true visual humiliation unfolded at Buckingham Palace. Following the parade, the royal family gathered in the centre room, preparing for the iconic balcony appearance. Camilla, unaware that her carriage orders had been dismantled, stepped out onto the heavy stone balcony, smiling for the global cameras, waiting for her children to step out and join her in the centre of the frame. But as she turned her head, anticipating the arrival of her manufactured court, the trap finalised its execution. The heavy glass doors of the balcony were pulled shut by security staff. Standing entirely alone in her designated space, she realized her family was nowhere to be seen. She was flanked only by the direct bloodline royals who had engineered her quarantine. In that suffocating silence illuminated by millions of flashing cameras, Camilla was forced to face the terrifying reality that her access to the true levers of visual power had just been permanently revoked. The deafening roar of the Royal Air Force jets painting the sky in red, white, and blue provided the ultimate mocking soundtrack to Camilla's silent devastation. To the millions of viewers watching the live global broadcast, the Queen Consort's frozen smile appeared to be a standard display of royal protocol. But to the forensic observer and to every senior courtier standing inside the center room, the truth was glaringly obvious. The grand illusion of her absolute visual supremacy had just been shattered in real time. Camilla was forced to stand on the balcony and endure the agonizing minutes of the fly past, fully aware that the heavy glass doors behind her were guarded by security personnel acting under the direct orders of the Prince of Wales. Her meticulously designed shadow court, the private entourage she had intended to unveil to the world as the new core of the monarchy, had been entirely erased from the frame. The moment the final anthem concluded and the royal family stepped backward into the palace, the suffocating reality of her containment fully set in. There was no chaotic shouting in the center room, only the icy, polite efficiency of the working royals departing for their private quarters. Driven by the sheer panic of her exposed vulnerability, Camilla immediately bypassed her frozen public relations team and sought an urgent private audience with King Charles in his secluded apartments. In her mind, the core dynamic of their 30-year relationship remained her ultimate shield. She presented the locked balcony doors, the military police interception of her son's carriage, and the clinical intervention of Prince William, not merely as a personal insult, but as a direct hostile challenge to the king's sovereign authority over his own birthday parade. She fully expected the man who had fractured his relationship with the public and absorbed decades of global criticism for her sake to summon the household division commanders, overrule his heir, and demand a public apology for her family's quarantine. But that is where the narrative shifts completely, not because of a grand dramatic argument, but because of a devastating, unyielding silence. As Camilla finished her frantic plea, King Charles did not reach for his desk telephone to issue a royal countermand. He did not summon the gold stick in waiting to draft a sovereign override. Instead, he met his wife with a heavy, agonizing silence that carried the absolute weight of a transitioning reign and his own severe vulnerabilities. This was not the silence of a husband who did not care. It was the profound, calculated concession of a monarch who had just been forced to face the harsh constitutional reality of his own mortality. Charles understands what Camilla refuses to accept: the infrastructure of the future, particularly the visual and military perimeter of the crown, no longer belongs to him. By refusing to intervene, the king quietly validated the ceremonial guillotine that William and Princess Anne had dropped. He signaled to the entire palace apparatus and to the military commands monitoring the situation that the true governing authority over the institution's state footprint had already shifted to the Prince of Wales. Intervening to protect Camilla's private network now would mean declaring a public institutional war against his own heir and his own sister, risking a catastrophic scandal over the exploitation of military honors. In that quiet room, Charles chose the survival of the bloodline over the ambitions of his consort. He chose the historical integrity of the crown. And in doing so, he left Camilla to face the terrifying realization that her ultimate protector had just stepped aside, leaving her completely exposed to the unyielding rules of the new order. This devastating silence exposes the raw, fragile underbelly of what can only be described as Camilla's profound visual and commercial desperation. To the outside world, she projects the glittering image of an untouchable matriarch waving to the crowds and wearing the historic jewels. But the cold economic and constitutional reality of the British monarchy is that she actually owns absolutely nothing. A balcony appearance at Trooping the Colour is not merely a family photograph. It is the ultimate state-funded luxury, a global endorsement that acts as an administrative blank check. It guarantees lifelong elite status, untouchable social currency, and massive commercial valuations for anyone lucky enough to be captured in the frame. Camilla knew that the moment King Charles is no longer on the throne, her institutional currency drops to absolute zero. Her push to embed her non-royal children into the permanent visual history of the state was a panicked, calculated maneuver to build a legally binding, taxpayer-subsidized fortress for her family before the inevitable transition of the crown. She needed them on that balcony to prove they were untouchable. William's decision to execute a forensic audit of the parade manifests and permanently strike. The names from the carriage logistics was a masterclass in institutional containment. He weaponized the military bureaucracy of the state to lay bare her vulnerability, revealing that without the explicit approval of the Prince of Wales, her personal empire is completely insolvent and visually bankrupt. He proved that the sovereign's balcony cannot be carved up and distributed as public relations fodder to a shadow court. The deeper meaning behind this silent execution of revenge became undeniably clear as the global press released the official photographs of the event. The locked glass doors were not just a logistical failure for Camilla's team, they were the ultimate visual representation of an institutional quarantine. As Camilla's borrowed visual power evaporated, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, retained her rightful place with an effortless, quiet dominance. The contrast between the two women could not have been more stark, and the institution knows exactly who holds the true power. Catherine has never needed to submit unauthorized memorandums to the Master of the Horse to secure her extended family's public legacy. Her parents and siblings navigate the world with quiet dignity, never demanding state carriages or prime balcony real estate to project authority. Catherine herself commands the center of the global frame, not through manipulation or paid media operatives, but because her power is rooted in uncomplaining sacrifice, flawless execution of duty, and the unshakable legitimacy of being the mother of the future king. When Catherine steps onto the balcony, she organically commands the respect of the world. Her influence is authentic, earned through years of silent endurance and absolute loyalty to the crown. The cameras naturally gravitate toward her and her children, capturing the undeniable future of the institution. By ensuring that the visual integrity of the monarchy remains untainted by Camilla's private overreach, William was doing more than protecting the military parade protocols. He was offering a silent, devastating defense of his mother's legacy, proving that the true visual history of the institution belongs exclusively to the rightful heirs. For years, William has watched the quiet, systematic attempts to elevate Camilla's media network and normalize her extended family's presence within the royal orbit, a strategy designed to slowly overwrite Princess Diana's historical footprint by fiercely guarding the balcony and instituting the Bloodline-Only protocol. William guaranteed that the prestige of the monarchy will be preserved intact. He ensured that Catherine and her children will never have to share their highly sensitive public perimeters with a manufactured state-funded echo chamber. It was not an act of petty vindictiveness. It was the ultimate silent restoration of order, executed through the undeniable permanence of military protocol. Palace courtiers, broadcasting directors, and household division commanders possess an exquisite radar for where the true authority lies. And they have already begun shifting their allegiances entirely toward Prince William. The message has been sent through 1,000 minor logistical updates. Those who align themselves with Camilla's private visual ambitions will find themselves locked outside the corridors of true power. The boundaries have been firmly re-established, sending a clear signal to the world that the ancient organism of the British monarchy cannot be permanently hollowed out by clever public relations, nor can its most iconic state imagery be hijacked through emotional manipulation. The crown protects its assets, its history, its visual footprint, and its bloodline at all costs. Camilla believed that by outlasting her critics and securing the title of queen, she had achieved absolute permanent victory. She thought she had conquered the institution and secured the master keys to its ultimate global stage, but she failed to recognize that true royal authority cannot be taken by storm or secured through administrative tricks. It requires the deep foundational legitimacy of sovereign duty. As she retreated to the quiet luxury of her private rooms, remembering the heavy glass doors that contained her dismantled future, the grand illusion vanished completely. She may still stand on the balcony for now, but everyone inside the palace walls, and soon everyone in the world, knows the truth. The trap has snapped shut. The visual borders of the estate have been permanently redrawn. The reign of the ceremonial shadow court has been entirely dismantled, leaving behind only the cold reality of a consort who is merely a temporary guest in a house she sought to rule, and the undeniable truth that the era of Prince William has already begun. Thank you for exploring this deep dive into the hidden power dynamics and visual battles of the British monarchy. If you found this forensic analysis compelling, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a comment below with your thoughts on Prince William and Princess Anne's decisive ceremonial retaliation. Your engagement helps us continue to uncover the unspoken truths behind the palace walls.